have the PM here today with another important announcement. We are looking to grow advanced manufacturing and defence jobs here in the Shoalhaven. It is without doubt the Seahawk capital of Australia, and to see this incredibly sophisticated aircraft behind us, which is there as an anti-submarine aircraft, and know that it's providing the job opportunities for our local kids to come through our high schools and come directly here and be part of the defence sector at a time when we're growing the defence sector is very important. So, PM, welcome, and it's great to have you back.
Thanks, Andrew. It's terrific to be here again with you, and I'm pleased Jenny's been able to be down here as well in recent weeks as well. It's a place we know well and a place we love coming to, and I want to thank you very much for being part of our team. As the Liberal candidate here for Gilmore after such a great job you've done in the New South Wales State Government. And it's great to see Shelley Hancock here as well. Shelley and I have known each other for a very long time, and she's been doing an extraordinary job here for the people of the Shoalhaven there in Nowra over a long period of time. When I became Prime Minister just over 3.5 years ago, I said that I wanted to keep our economy strong. I said I wanted to keep Australians safe. I wanted to keep Australians together. And that has certainly been our challenge over the last 3 years, and particularly as we've come through COVID. And keeping the economy strong means we can do the other things that are so important. And Australia's national security doesn't happen by accident. It requires a government that understands it, is deeply committed to it, and is prepared to make the decisions to enhance our capability and give our defence forces the support they need, as well as the many other agencies like Border Force, the Department of Home Affairs, the Australian Federal Police, and the many other agencies that each and every day work so hard to keep Australians safe. And so that's why today we're launching our Safe and Secure Australia policy, one of many policies we've announced over the course of this election. These policies draw on announcements we've made over the course of this campaign, but also importantly what we've announced in the many budgets that we've delivered, and particularly the most recent budget. Significant investments right across the board. We know that when Labor was last in power, they cut defence funding. They cut funding to important security agencies, and that happened for two principal reasons. One was they completely lost control of our borders, and it cost the budget some $17 billion, not to mention the 1,200 lives that were lost at sea, the 800 boats that turned up. In addition to that, they also didn't know how to manage money. And when you can't manage money and you can't manage a strong economy, then you cannot invest in the important defence capabilities that this country needs to be strong. And that capability just doesn't defend Australia and protect Australia. It also gives us the capability to partner with our allies like the United States, the United Kingdom, countries in our own region, India and Japan in particular, with whom we're forging even closer relationships. But it's been our commitment to rebuilding our defence forces from 1.56% of the size of our economy to now 2% and more that has really enabled us to play a far more significant role and to land important agreements like the AUKUS agreement, the most significant defence agreement for Australia since ANZUS itself. And so our policy continues to set out the significant investments that we are making to ensure that our defence capabilities, our intelligence capabilities, our border protection capabilities are strong and secure, because that's what Liberals and Nationals have always done, and Australians have always been able to rely on the Liberals and Nationals to do that. Now, that has significant implications and positive benefits for communities all around the country and in how we achieve that. And as Andrew said, that means something right here in the Shoalhaven. And here where we're standing just adjacent to the base at Albatross, just over the way there, where these helicopters have been involved in rescues, in important work, even most recently during the floods that took place just a few months ago. And we want to continue to support the development of that capability. So today we're announcing that the Royal Australian Navy, we will acquire an additional 12 MH-60R Romeo maritime helicopters for the Navy, and they'll be based here at Albatross. This will replace the Navy's current fleet of 6 Taipan helicopters, and we'll also acquire an additional 13th Romeo to replace the loss of a Romeo in the Philippine Sea in October of 2021. Now, this is around a $2.5 billion investment There's $1.5 billion that is in the acquisition of these helicopters, and $1 billion for the ongoing sustainment of the helicopters, which happens right here in this very hangar. Now, that is expected to add to the 200 direct jobs right here that is already sustaining the fleet that we have by another 90 jobs. And so the apprentices that we've met this morning will complete their apprenticeships, and they will go on to full-time jobs, and more apprentices will come, and they will be needed to ensure that we can service the additional 12 Romeo maritime helicopters that we're establishing here. Now, in addition to that, I'll note that we're also confirming with second-pass approval the acquisition of Apache armed reconnaissance helicopters. That's 29 helicopters whose primary purpose is warfighting, and they will replace the existing fleet of 22 Tiger Eurocopters, and that's an investment of some $5.5 billion. These are investments that you have to make to ensure that you continue to build up your defence forces. This is how we're putting Australia in a strong position to operate with our partners, whether they be in the United States, Japan, India, United Kingdom and so many others, to ensure that we have a free and open Indo-Pacific. I said when I was on the White House lawn that Australia may look to the US, but we never leave it to the US. We do our share of the heavy lifting when it comes to defence under our government. We couldn't do that when we came to government because of the rundown in defence expenditure that we'd seen. Labor did not commission one naval vessel in 6 years because they lost control of the borders and they lost control of the budget. Now, before I go to questions, let me just make a couple of points about last night's debate. It was a pretty spirited debate. I'm sure everybody will agree. These are passionate topics. This is a big choice. Future of the country, future of our economy, the ability to pay for important services like Medicare, aged care, all of these things. Plenty of people can talk about the problems. The Leader of the Opposition, Anthony Albanese, did a lot of talking about the problems last night, but we didn't hear any solutions. You can talk about aged care, you can talk about Medicare, you can even talk about childcare, but he didn't tell you the childcare policy costs $63 billion. Now, you can't go and make commitments like that if you don't have an economy that can pay for it. And last night we heard from Mr Albanese that he can't guarantee wage rises. He's been banging on about this for the last 3 years, talking about how he can boost wages, but when push come to shove and he had to answer the question, can you increase wages? Well, he can't. And there's no magic wand to increase wages. There's no magic pen that makes it all happen. Voting at this election for the Labor Party doesn't automatically make your wages go up. And Mr Albanese made that point, I think, last night and when he was exposed. But there were two other very important issues that I raised with him last night that are actually going to mean a lot for Australian families. The first of those was the discussion we had about their policy that would see transmission infrastructure built ahead of time and before it's needed, which will drive up the prices of electricity by $560. Now, that's not just us saying that increasing investments in transmission when it's ill-timed and in the wrong places will drive up electricity prices. It's Frontier Economics, it's the Victoria Energy Council, even the Grattan Institute, hardly a positive endorser of coalition policy, set out very clearly that if you increase the investment unwisely, ahead of time, and in places where it's not needed yet, you're asking customers to pay higher prices. Now, that is the consequence of their policy. If they do that, because it brings in not just the $20 billion they say they're going to spend, but it's $73 billion in total. And that $73 billion gets taken back from customers for electricity. That's why it drives up the electricity prices. Our policy is not to do that. We only support those transmission projects in our underwriting program for those that have been recommended by the regulators that are timely and in the right place to ensure you can put downward pressure on those electricity prices that have fallen by 10% under our government. Now, the other one we talked about last night was housing policy. And I set out the very real practical example of what they call their Help to Buy scheme, which I call their Forced to Sell scheme. And what this involved is you take someone, maybe earning about $80,000, they might have a partner who's earning about $30,000. That's a pretty normal sort of situation I would expect down here, Andrew, in many parts of the Shoalhaven. And they may have the opportunity to go into that scheme where the government will come and own 40% of their house. But you know how it works? If one of those partners, maybe the partner who is working part-time decides to go back to work full-time, or the partner on the higher wage actually gets a promotion, maybe they finish their apprenticeship or get a promotion in another company. They go over that $120,000, they've got to pay the 40% back. Now, he wouldn't tell you that last night, and he was very shifty about it. But that is what their policy does. Once you go over that $120,000, you've got to give the money back to the government. Now, that means you've either got to take out another massive mortgage, which could be $250,000, $300,000 on top of the mortgage you have now, or you have to sell your house. See, they just don't think through the policies, whether it's what they do and what they say what they want to do on transmission grids, which puts up electricity prices, or they come up with these housing schemes which have people sell their house rather than own their house. That's why you've got to be able to think things through. And that's what we see with Mr Albanese all the time. He doesn't think these things through, and that's why I think Australians are really asking the question about whether this job is too big for him and whether he's up for it.